Good evening and welcome to the City of Farmers Branch Planning and Zoning Commission study session. It is presently 6:01 p.m. We will start this evening by thanking the commissioners for their service, and then with item A1 to discuss regular agenda items, which takes us to item C1. Consider approval of the February 26, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission minutes and take appropriate action. Commissioners, any comments?
One, I didn't see, I felt like during the Q&A that I had summarized that the tall office buildings that the comprehensive plan was asking for, people aren't building office buildings, and that it was not a good place for retail really, because those are both the things that the comprehensive plan asked for, and that because of that, this thing that we approved was actually a good use. And I didn't really see that statement in there about how specifically that, the comprehensive plan was calling for tall office buildings and retail. So if we could just maybe look back and
We could do that.
get that comment in there.
Yeah, well, we absolutely.
That was sort of how I got to where, yeah, cool.
When this goes through the process, I mean, once we get to that point of adopting, we'll just want to include that note.
That note.
Yeah. And then we can make the adjustments on our side.
Right?
Great.
That's no problem.
Thank you. Any other omissions,
No.
corrections, typos? All right, seeing none, we will move back to item A2. Discuss a potential amendment to the comprehensive zoning ordinance relating to unlisted and undefined uses. Lily?
Commissioners, Lily Sutton, planner, and I will be actually discussing these two items, this one and the next one. And the first one we're going to be discussing is potential updates to our CZO regarding unlisted and undefined uses in both the use table and in our definitions section. So the purpose for the update is when looking through the use table and what uses were listed on the use table but not defined within the definition section, we found that about 44.1% were undefined uses. So they're listed in the use table, but they don't have a corresponding definition. And with it being, almost half of the listed uses that are not defined, it creates a lot of miscommunication, and there's a lot of areas and for kind of conflict between applicants and staff to be able to find, what would be the best definition and having to use some discrepancy there. So the purpose of in the proposed updates would be to clarify, looking at the actual definitions of, are there definitions that we could make better and make a little bit more clear for applicants wanting to know where their use would fall, and then consolidate. There might be uses that have multiple definitions that are listed as one on the use table, or the opposite, where maybe they're all defined together, but they're listed separately and then allowed in different areas. So just clarifying and consolidating what we can, as well as comparing and aligning our permissible usage with, our comprehensive plan and our city's objectives. And with that, I will open up for any, discussions or questions that y'all might have.
Commissioners? Yeah? Go ahead.
Yeah, interesting undertaking. You said 44% are not defined. How many is that? What's the scope in terms of number of things to define?
Yeah, absolutely. So of about 204 uses on our use table, 90 are not defined.
And what is the process? I mean, how do you come up with a definition for these things? Do you sit and think? Do you consult with others? What is the process for clarifying those?
Absolutely. We looked into the APA's, the American Planning Association's definitions. If they didn't match exactly, we also looked into local municipalities and what, they have this definition, and kind of researching other cities as well. And largely looking at like APA and any of those more national things.
Okay, good.
Resources.
And once you come up, is there a vetting or approval process that ultimately will it go to the city council? Does it come through us and to the city council? What's that?
Yes, sir. So this would be coming to both city council and your review as well. So this would go through both the
Right,
traditional
we're-
CZO amendment.
Right. This is just for just study session item right now, just to get some feedback, just really to kind of give everybody an update that this is something that we do want to bring back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Now, we still have to take this to the city council for study session, just so that they understand that they know that this is going to be coming down the chain. And like Lily said, when we do bring it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, we'll be looking for y'all's feedback. We'll be bringing an ordinance and a staff report. You'll be able to see all those definitions. If you have any issues with those definitions, that's the time to let us know, hey, this doesn't look right, this doesn't sound right. Or if there's other definitions that maybe you want to add, or maybe something you want to make an adjustment to or take away. I mean, we plan to bring you the entire list. And Lily, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think whatever we show you guys, we'll be able to show what ultimately we're trying not to touch, and then ultimately what we're trying to modify to make it a little easier to read through it. Because it's a lot of definitions. It is. It really is. And some of the definitions, I mean, some of these uses they're pretty self-explanatory, but you should still have something defined as to what it actually means. Because we get caught into this situation where it's interpretation at the end of the day. And so it's just easier to have a clearly defined definition of these uses. And then again, ultimately, yeah, we take it back to city council and get their final approval.
Okay, good, thank you. It looks like definitely a good thing to do.
Absolutely.
How long do you think this is going to take? It sounds like a pretty huge thing.
Well, I think Lily's been working on it pretty hard. She spent many hours going through this, so we're pretty close to coming up with the complete list of definitions. We've looked at it internally as just a team, and I think, oh gosh, I guess I don't want to promise when exactly we're bringing it back. I forgot, when do we have this slated, Sarah, to come back to P and Z? In April.
Okay,
Towards
cool.
the end of April,
Okay,
if
thanks.
anything else, yeah.
Do we have any specific examples or where someone has come to us with a project where it may have, something like this may have puzzled us and we've run into, well, what does this definition mean? Is there some example you could show us or the council that, back when 6 months ago, so-and-so came to and do you have specific issues like that?
If I could give you an example, obviously anytime someone comes to us with a new and unlisted use, that's usually when we're kind of scratching our head trying to figure out. Malls was a good example. I mean,
What was?
malls, like an actual shopping mall.
Okay,
like an indoor-
okay,
like
the
an
one down
indoor
on
shopping mall.
Josie, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
we never had that use clearly defined within our use table. So we took it through as a new and enlisted use, provided a definition, wanted to show how we wanted to classify it. Of course, that's staff's perspective. We get y'all's recommendation, and then ultimately we take that to city council. That particular use actually didn't make it through the process, but we do have other uses that are coming through the chain right now that are not defined in our use table, where we want to get a definition for that and figure out where to classify that. So we do have some other uses that are coming through the process right now. For instance, we did have I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn right now. I mean, we had an application submitted for a card room. That's an example of something
Is that the one out on, I heard a rumor about on Luna Road, new restaurants out there, the card room?
There's some folks looking at our entertainment district to do something similar to that. I don't want to get too far off topic or anything, but yeah.
Well, but I'm
that's-
just looking for
that's a-
examples so that, I understand what we're trying to do, but
It's something where somebody's
for
brought
some
something.
clarity, you can say, oh, by the way, when this came, this is an example of, we couldn't find it in our,
Couldn't find, well, yeah,
Yeah.
malls is probably a really good example of that.
well, that was a
where-
recent example too.
very much so,
But-
very much so.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I was just, it would help you paint a picture.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we plan to do for sure. We will definitely paint a picture just so that everyone has a full understanding as to why we're doing this undertaking of our definitions section. It really does need to be cleaned up and just brought up to speed as part.
Other comments from commissioners? Questions?
Just that, won't affect current uses, if it changes,
Mm-hmm.
it's all grandfathered, everything that's happened before, would only affect new things.
Right,
If
yeah,
somebody's
they-
hearing this, they say, wait, something might change.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. Right, absolutely, absolutely. We don't want to affect anything that currently, especially if that use is already allowed. We're not trying to create any type of legal non-conforming situations. That's what we want to avoid. So we're going to be very careful about that. And it's really more about the focus in this whole entire undertaking is really making sure that all of our uses have a clear definition, not so much adding new, really the new and unlisted use process is a completely separate process. For instance, like the card room or the mall, or, those are like where we focus on that one use and try to define it and let council define how we classify that. But no, in this particular case, we're not looking to create any type of legal nonconforming situation, and it's really to get those clear definitions for all those uses on our table.
And the PDs supersede CZO, right?
Yeah,
So it's
you know-
like if something's in a PD, that doesn't that won't be affected by this.
Absolutely not. No, PDs, absolutely. No, I think the interesting thing about a plan development is that, plan developments fall outside of our typical our typical land use classifications or straight zone classifications. So, and those uses, we want to be sure that all those uses have a clear definition because those are the uses that ultimately can go into a PD. They may not go into our straight zone, but they can go into a plan development. So this will not affect the plan developments, no.
Thank you.
Well, and again, thank you for your efforts. In addition to the 3 Cs that you provided on clarity, consolidate, and compare, I think this will provide us with consistency as well and predictability for our partners. So I appreciate that.
We will add that C in.
PowerPoint.
Yes, 4 Cs.
4 Cs.
Well, it can be the why, Yeah, so thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and up next, item A3, discuss a potential amendment to the comprehensive zoning ordinance related to expiration timelines for approved site plans. Thanks again, Lily.
Me again. All right. So we presented based on council direction at the strategic plan session back in February on our current standards for expiration timelines for both specific use permits, SUPs, as well as approved site plans. We looked at our current standards, which SUPs have an expiration of 6 months. If a building permit or a certificate of occupancy is not issued, that's the expiration for SUP specific within the CZO. And there are no expiration requirements for approved site plans within the CZO. They might be listed in a PD, but that would be separate from the blanket document of the CZO. So the exceptions would be, again, listed as the SUPs might have different, and the site plans might have different expirations, but our proposed updates would be, and based on the direction we got from council at strategic session, would be to maintain the expiration timeline for SUPs, that 6 months timeline, and then introduce expiration timelines for site plans. Currently, we're looking at a 2-year timeline. That's our current proposal based on research from other cities and municipalities. And then that would follow the same standards of a building permit or a certificate of occupancy would have to be issued. And again, these would not, this proposed change would not change current PDs that have expiration timelines listed within them. And again, I will open that for discussion or questions.
Thanks again.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you go back 2 slides, please? There. Here you say propose a timeline of 3 years, but in the next slide you say 2 years.
Yes, sorry for that confusion. When we were discussing with council at the strategic planning session, they used 3 years as an example of a timeline that they were looking for site plans, but did mention that they were open to research from other municipalities. And we found that 2 years is kind of the average that we've seen from our research. So we're proposing 2 years. That was just an express example
Okay.
that they mentioned.
Thanks for the clarification.
Oh, my pleasure.
Any other comments? I think, Harold, you had some questions before, if you wanted to.
Yeah, it may not specifically apply, but say, for example, somebody's house burns down. and because of financial or insurance companies or whatever, they decide they're going to rebuild it themselves. There should be a timeline for that person to have X amount of construction done in so many months or a year or whatever, so it doesn't really affect the neighborhood or the neighbors next door. Does this apply here?
This does
Or is
not.
this just new site plans?
Yeah, this is really the issue with this. I mean, well, the history behind this is that we've had site plans that have existed in straight zoned areas that have never come to fruition. They've never been constructed or built, and they were approved. Luna Road is a really good example of this, but they were approved years ago, 2005, and now council has changed, multiple times, and at that point now the developer is now bringing it to fruition, but maybe single family homes have already been constructed and they were already approved for as multifamily development. So now there's this confusion of, well, why is a multifamily development getting approved here when there's single family? So really ultimately, and they have the right to do that because that was already pre-approved years ago. So the idea is that if somebody gets a site plan approved for, let's say, whether it's multifamily, single family, retail, commerce, whatever it may be, that site plan, not the use itself, so the PD is never going to expire or the zoning is never going to expire, but that site plan, whatever was planned for and approved, that will expire. And as the surrounding area transitions or evolves into other uses, once that area that may have been of concern that had that site plan, once that comes back into play, that gives council the ability to add certain type of parameters or requirements around that area due to the surrounding area that's kind
I'm
of
with you.
evolved or that's been built up around it. And I think that's where this really kind of spawned from ultimately. Because again, we've have all these site plans that are just sitting out there that have never been constructed, and 15, 20 years down the road, they're now coming to fruition. And the question is, wow, couldn't we have had some larger trees put up against this area to help protect that single family development that got constructed 2 years ago behind there, there's just certain things that I think council would like to have some say in for the most part, especially if that development never ended up getting constructed. And so the zoning doesn't go away. It doesn't take away the use. The use is still allowed, but it's all of the details that go into that site plan that they basically have to start over. If you're not going to do it within 2 years, and you're going to do it 20 years from now, well, bring that new site plan 20 years from now, because the area around, the surrounding area has probably evolved and changed. And you know what? There might be new items, new elements that we want to ensure to help protect those surrounding areas without, giving that developer the right off the bat from 20 years ago. I don't know if that all makes sense. It's just, It's a little convoluted, but ultimately this is actually a good thing, I think, when it comes to site plans, because it gets us out of that issue of, well, why are they getting the right to do all these certain things? And it was approved 15 years ago, and we've already got new single-family homes, or we got new businesses or schools or daycares that are coming in this area, and these other folks get the right to build what they were approved 15, 20 years ago.
That's all I need to hear.
Oh,
That's a
okay,
good
good.
plan.
Can you make this retroactive?
Well, yeah, so all of a sudden, there's going to be a whole bunch of site plans expiring? Or is it
no.
only newly filed site plans that are subject to this
There's probably not
expiration?
that many in the city left.
There's probably not. No. And this doesn't mess with plan develop. And hopefully I'm not saying this incorrectly, Lily. I'll let you jump in if you need to. But there may be plan developments that are sitting out there that already have an adopted site plan. That stays with the PD.
Right.
Those are not expiring. That is completely separate. And this city is made up mainly of plan developments. I mean, if you look at a map of our city, we are very pink all over the place, or purple. Is purple or it's pink? Pink, purple. Whatever color it is for plan developments, we have a lot of them. And so those site plans absolutely protected. This is really more about the site plans that fall within retail, commercial, light industrial.
They're still undeveloped.
Multifamily, undeveloped, maybe approved from
Right.
2002, But now it's 2024, and if they haven't built it, yeah, they need to come back to the drawing board because the surrounding area has already changed, by the time they're coming. And again, I use Luna Road as an example. I think that's an excellent example because that entire area where those multifamily units were going was supposed to be all it was supposed to be an employment district. So you're supposed to have apartments surrounded by employment district. Well, everything changed, and Harold, you might have been, I don't know if you were on council at the time or not, or not sure when that happened, but that all changed to like single family at one time.
Right.
And,
All the zoning was changed out there.
all the zoning, but that area of zoning never changed. That was a completely different zone district. So again, it just keeps our council and our city kind of in the know of what's happening. And then we'll be able to also, at the time of going through that detailed site plan, set any particular conditions that might be necessary to help protect the surrounding
So
area.
I guess I'm asking, do you want to or can you make it retroactive? Like if something has out there, give them another 2 or 3 years or something, but after those years, the ones that have been there since 1995, go ahead and expire. So
Yeah, we could do that. And again, we have to change our ordinance in order to do this too. So this has to go through a complete formal process. I don't want anybody thinking that we're just saying this now and it's going to go into effect. I have to bring you guys an actual ordinance with all the details because we have to amend. I forgot what section our site plan section is, but it's like, I forgot which chapter it is, but that's the chapter that we have to amend in our CZO. So this body could set certain conditions dealing with things that are retroactive, or we could just say, hey, from this point on, we're going to look at site plans in this particular way. But that's really for this board to decide. And then we get to take that recommendation to city council. If city council agrees with it, then it's law.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we'll bring you some ideas also. We'll bring you what staff's, stances on it and see if that sticks or flies.
If they were in the middle of constructing and it expired, would that extend the timeline, or would they have to apply in the middle of the construction?
So if the site plan, no, we wouldn't.
Let's
if
say they
they're
had to
already
demo
constructed.
existing buildings
Mhm.
and then start construction, and for whatever reason, they just didn't get the timeline of the construction within that 2-year period. Would they have to apply in the middle of the second phase of the construction?
I think Lily's going to show us, I think one of the conditions is that building permit. So that would sort of take care of the situation I think that you're describing, because you would need a building permit prior to that construction beginning. And the building permit
that's
would
true.
end up being the achievement in that window.
You're right.
Okay.
Did I say that right, Lily?
Yes, that was perfect.
No further questions?
Okay.
All right. Thank you again
you,
for this
Commissioners.
excellent work. And we will move now to item A4, receive a report on active transportation plan and upcoming public engagement activities. Thank you, Alex.
Of course. Thank you all for having me. I'm Alex Formakis. I'm the Sustainability Manager. I'm the Public Works Department. So I'll just kind of talk today about the work that we're working on for active transportation. I'm going to start kind of at the beginning, just kind of some goals for transportation, all these different methods we have to get around our city. Main thing with transportation, get where you're going. That's goal number one. Get where you're going with less traffic and less pollution. That's really what we're working for. Pollution-wise, we're in non-attainment for, the ground level ozone, so we're kind of in violation of the Clean Air Act in our region. So in our current system, largely built around vehicle travel, you get where you're going, which is great. Doesn't really score well on less traffic, doesn't really score well on less pollution. You guys have all seen these air pollution watches, especially in our summer months. We're coming up on ozone season. And I work in sustainability, so everyone's like, oh, we're all gonna just get EVs and it's gonna solve everything. You're still gonna get where you're going. It doesn't really help for traffic. Less pollution out the tailpipe, yes. So what other solutions are we thinking about? Public transit, yes, you can get where you're going. There's an issue of convenience, issue of time for a lot of our public transit. I know for me to take the train to the office, it's rarely faster than driving my own vehicle. But you do have pollution, less pollution. Even if you never plan to get on DART, you can have less traffic if more people take the DART bus, less cars on the road for you. So even if you never plan to get on the train, being supportive of other people getting on the train helps you out. What else? More walking and cycling. Yes, you can get where you're going within a small radius. We don't want to walk 10 miles in July. That sounds pretty dreadful. But there are certain trips that we all take that, I probably didn't need a vehicle for that. If I felt safe on the sidewalk, if I felt, I could get my bike somewhere, and that has those benefits of less pollution and less traffic. So all of that's just kind of broad step, but we need to look at all forms of transportation to help achieve those goals, get where you're going with less traffic and less pollution. Most of our investment has focused on vehicles. That's just kind of how city planning and design was just at the time of our, of Farmers Branch and all the other neighboring cities. And then we have to be acknowledged that there's just a massive amount of regional growth, and that's putting strain on our transportation system. You guys have all heard how many people are moving to North Texas and Texas. All of that is going to put strain on our existing resources. So that's why we're looking at kind of at all forms of transportation. So specifically on active transportation, what we're looking at, what is it? It's mobility outside of the use of vehicles. So we're really focusing on pedestrians and cyclists. In 2015, the city had adopted a trail master plan. So that's been largely successful, putting in trails, especially in developments on the west side. But there are not too many places where we can have those wide, dedicated trails. So what we're looking at with this active transportation plan is that mobility. Where are we missing connections on sidewalk? What destinations aren't easily accessible for people to cycle or something like that? So this new plan, we're going to piggyback on a lot of the work that this commission has already done with the comprehensive plan. You guys had pretty extensive public comment around mobility. We've looked at that. We're working with a consultant on this project. They've reviewed all of that was included in the comprehensive plan. So no need to kind of duplicate efforts, I guess. So we're trying to align it really well with the comprehensive plan that all of y'all worked so hard on. And the goal with this active transportation is to have a 5-year project list with a funding strategy. So we want it to be practical, things that we can work on in the short term to help maybe make it where a trip could be taken without the use of a vehicle. Public engagement is kind of what we're talking about today. I mentioned using the input on mobility that has already been compiled through the comprehensive plan. Community survey will be coming out next month, so we'll be encouraging everyone in here to take that, share it. I always tell, I'm the liaison for the sustainability committee. I always say you're the champion in your community on this. So, share that with your network. We will have a larger community event that's going to be led by our consultants in April. I'll have that. It's the 17th on the next slide or one of the future slides. So that'll be a really good area for people to kind of get a brief understanding of what we're working on, and then we'll have a lot of the exhibits like you see. Here's just a few examples on the left, where you can put your input, your lived experience as a resident in Farmers Branch, getting around. Is there a destination that you would like to walk to that you just aren't able to? And then input from boards. So we're here at P&Z today. Sustainability Committee will be Wednesday, and Parks and Rec Board, not this Thursday, but the following. So kind of the boards that are in this space, we're trying to get some feedback from, a little bit of discussion within kind of the time we have for the agenda. Main things we're looking at, proximity to attractions. We don't want to build a sidewalk to nowhere that no one's going to use. We want it to connect somewhere, can help someone get to a DART station, to the university, to a library, to the rec center. Funding. Is there funding available for this? Is there grant funding? Is there federal funding that we can utilize? Safety is a really big one. That's probably the reason a lot of times people will opt to get in their vehicle is from a safety perspective. I think that middle one there, we have a list or locations of pedestrian and cycle accidents. That was, I believe, in the comprehensive plan as well. So it probably looks familiar, but there's more than we would like to see on that map. So those are things that we want to consider as well. And then feasibility. Can it be implemented within the physical limitations of a space and the financial constraints of the city? So those are all things that we're looking at. We're wanting to get feedback from our residents on. We want to know, okay, what are the most pressing priorities that you have? So we'll be doing ranking at our event in April. We'll be doing some ranking exercises. What's most important to the residents when they're thinking about active transportation? Safety was probably going to be really up there. Connectivity, how do we get between communities, between destinations? So those are all things that we're looking at to try and basically get what residents want, and with that, we'll help prioritize the matrix of future projects. So funding, safety, all of these things, comfort, how, and that will help rank which projects we choose to move forward and rank, sooner rather than later. So just visually, some of the things we're trying to get from residents, do you feel safe enough to ride a bike on a shared lane? Or is that not going to be, you want to be on a separated bike lane? These are questions that we want to know. This person that I was walking around, it was actually kind of rainy. They probably needed to get where they were going. They weren't just riding around for leisure in the misty rain. So maybe they feel safe on that share with sharrows there, with cars going by. Maybe it's their only option. So those are things that we want to know. If that was a dedicated bike lane, would more people use it? We want to know this before we even think about putting in some sort of infrastructure. The picture on the right, I'm sure everyone has kind of seen this. Just kind of a trail made where the concrete ends. Is there infrastructure missing in your community, in your neighborhoods, that would allow you to walk somewhere safely? Because we don't really want to see someone just building a path. I can't remember which college it was, but there was a college that whenever they built a new building, they would never put the sidewalks down. They'd see where the trails go and then put the sidewalks there.
It's Maryland.
It's where?
Maryland.
Maryland? Okay, awesome. I meant to look that up before, but so thank you for that. But so that would be a pretty good sign, something right there that, hey, people are going towards a destination and we don't have the infrastructure there. So it's very possible that that's not a safe way for people to get there. If you're in a wheelchair or on crutches, that's really not a safe option and you're probably not going that way. So those are things that we're trying to see. Y'all are active in your communities, you walk around, you talk to your neighbors. These are things that we want to know from people that are involved in our community. So that's kind of where we're at here. Like I said, we're getting inputs from our boards and commissions. Our community survey will be launching next month. You'll see all that in our regular outreach, social media, branch bulletin, flyers, all of that. And then our community input session that's going to be run by our consultants is Tuesday, April 17th at the Rec Center. So we would encourage all of you to participate in the survey, in the input session, and I can stop right there if there's any discussion. I'll be around afterward too, so if there's any questions, feel free to let me know.
Thanks again, Alex. Commissioners, questions?
I could talk to you all day. I'm an avid cyclist. I ride about 10,000 miles a year.
Oh, wow.
I ride from here to White Rock all the time. I ride from here out to Grapevine Lake and Trophy Club. I think you've got, I was looking at your chart here, that getting in and about Farmers Branch is pretty good. Getting out of Farmers Branch is treacherous. Mm-hmm. Because if you're going west, there's three ways. You can go on Beltline, or you can go on Royal, or you can go on Valley View. Nothing else crosses the river. Mm-hmm. And there is no concession at all on those streets for cyclists. If you're sitting at Mercer Parkway, the light won't even change green for you, and there's no pedestrian button. Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is take Valley View all the way from Luna so you can get a green light at Mercer Parkway. I'm pretty comfortable doing that, but I've talked to residents in Mercer Crossing who are terrified and will not ride to Campion Trail, mm-hmm. which is a great cycling place, but there's no way to get there for most cyclists. And
Why haven't you talked to your council person? I mean, to me, that's a perfect thing.
Oh, I have.
Where you know the problem is and you can throw dollars at it and get it fixed in the next budget.
Yeah, and you can look at the Strava heat maps and the Garmin heat maps. I hope you have access to those resources.
We have some of those. We have, I guess, like road traffic averages. The Strava maps are really cool, especially on the bike stuff.
Yeah, and you have access as a city official that I do not have, mm-hmm. but it shows the usage of those things, and you see Valley View is busy heavily used by cyclists, but mm-hmm. the city makes no provision. We even terminate the Sharrow mm-hmm. before or at Mercer Parkway, just when it narrows down to 2 lanes. So, yeah, my one I'd like to really, I'd love opportunities to get involved with you guys on this.
Wonderful.
To, if, to make it more accessible to get out of Farmers Branch. Because I know a lot of people in bike clubs in Dallas that come across Farmers Branch, go down to Valley View, go out to Grapevine and stuff. So it's very heavily used traffic, but we need to make it easier and safer for people to get out of the western side and out of the eastern side.
Yeah, I agree.
But thanks for hearing
So-
this.
All right. Other questions?
Would you say this is currently unfunded completely and you're just starting the process?
So I guess, yeah, we're going to be identifying the projects that we're going to, and like the city pretty much constantly is working on new trails, new sidewalks. So it'd be sort of prioritizing that funding. A lot of that right now we're working on is the West Side Art Trail. That's in our capital improvement budget. So that's kind of consistently going. With this, that would help us budget and forecast down the road too, projects. Sorry about that. So we know that, okay, this year we need to budget this much for a connection here, but we know 3 years down the road, we're gonna be looking at another 6 million or something, whatever that might be. So it's not, none of these projects right now are, we haven't even, I guess, identified which projects we're gonna be going. We're still getting that community input.
Alex, is it safe to say that places like, I guess, the Council of Governments, like they'll have calls for projects every so often too,
Yes.
that we would probably try to seek funding for once we identify, the priority projects as well, I would think.
Yes,
Yeah, if
and
it's
there's Council of Governments, they have something, and it's the Metropolitan Transportation Policy Bundle. And so it's policies that, are kind of best practices that they push cities to adopt. And if you adopt like half of them, you're eligible for a certain amount of funding. So we were able to do that, and you can use that as the city's match. So a lot of times the project will be 80% federal funded, 20% city match. We were able to secure some funding, so we had 750,000 transportation development credits, which acts as basically a dollar match for our 20%. So those are all the things that we're looking at as far as trying to, make a project financially feasible. The money's out there in a lot of these cases, so we're going to explore pretty much any sort of way we can get it. Because the more we're getting from a federal source or from the Council of Governments, the less it's coming from, tax rate.
And which day did you say it was, the public hearing, Alex?
That is Wednesday, April 17th.
Yeah,
That's
so-
at 6 o'clock.
Mark y'all's calendars. This is a day that
6 p.m.
Yep.
At the Rec Center Pecan Room.
Rec Center at
Pecan room.
Pecan Room. It's on the first floor. We'll have signage too, but it's when you go in right past the desk to the right. I think it's the first or second door on the left there.
Okay.
So that says Tuesday, but it is Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, it is. It is Wednesday. It is April 17th.
Wednesday.
Thank you for catching that.
Sure.
Alex, I'm glad you mentioned policies because that's something I was going to ask about along with this active transportation plan. I know I myself have attended lots of North Central Texas Council of Governments trainings and opportunities. And for instance, I was privileged enough to sit in on a Complete Streets policy workshop, right? And then also I did an excellent engagement where we participated and they even put us in wheelchairs and we got to experience the grade of the sidewalk
Yeah.
and how that works in a wheelchair because when you're able-bodied and walking around on 2 feet, that grade, you might not feel it as much, but I guarantee you in the wheelchair, it starts to feel very precarious and like you're about to be dumped out into traffic.
Yeah, I've seen different like conferences and where they do put people in a wheelchair or on crutches and go through, and you realize how many obstacles there are in the road. And then you mentioned Complete Streets policy. That is something that we have asked the consultants to draft up for us. It's not going to be, a binding that says we have to do on every road because there's so many different use cases. What it's going to basically say for us is that we need to examine all modes of transportation whenever we're doing a roadway project. So it might not be feasible to put it in a bike lane or maybe sidewalks on 2 sides of the street whenever we're doing a renovation. But it's something that we're going to basically look at. It helps us do due diligence and think about these alternative modes of transportation. So that's one thing that's actually called out in our sustainability plan is to adopt a Complete Streets policy. So our consultants that are working on this plan will draft that up. That would be something that we can obviously have planning look at. And then that would be something council would have to adopt as well. But that is an output that we're going to hope to have from this plan.
Yeah, I'm also curious about like a Vision Zero policy.
So we haven't formally, I guess, really looked into a Vision Zero policy. I know that those are a lot more, they're pretty in-depth to
Yes.
do. One of the things we're looking right now is Safe Streets for All.
Okay.
So they have
Yep.
some planning grants for roadway safety, and that would probably be our first step on something like that. Right now, they're actually funding quite a bit of those projects for, just getting at least a plan in place. And then they have funding down the road for implementation. So that would probably be where we would start on something like Vision Zero, is kind of working on Safe Streets for All, and then kind of putting some plans and strategies in place before we would adopt a Vision Zero. We haven't really heard a large, voice of that from the community, but we might on the 17th. So that's something we can always look into.
And I appreciate you bringing up Safe Streets for All because I had them on my list. A couple of other sort of partners or programmatic things. I'm just curious if you've explored Walk College.
I don't believe so.
So they do training on walkability. Also, bicycle-friendly communities.
We have looked at that. I think that'll be something too, where when we get this active transportation plan developed, we'll look at some of those like requirements that bike-friendly communities has, and see there's probably a lot that we already have
Yeah.
existing, but I think one of the things that I struggle with is we're trying to do so much work, we don't really stop back and try to get the designation, to get the recognition,
Yeah.
and which is unfortunate because council loves the recognition. So everyone loves to get a plaque, get recognized, anything like that. So the bike-friendly community is something we can definitely look at. And especially, we got some good press the other day on
Yes.
on biking. So
Yeah.
some of the work has been done. We just need to look at the actual formal requirements.
Well, I actually will say that I led students that I was teaching in submitting a bicycle-friendly university designation for their school, and we were successful in that. So there could be partnerships that you pursue that may help. I know that in the past, City of Farmers Branch has done like a mini internship program and that sort of things with local colleges or universities, and so that could be an area to, again, share in ways. Sustainability tends to be a very hot topic for colleges and schools, so you very well may find that to be a willing partner to help you with a little extra bandwidth and documentation, like you said, of the things that you're already successfully doing. I also wrote down safe routes to schools. It sounds like that's a priority as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've looked at. A lot of the kind of areas of interest, I think on the far left there are schools. So looking at, within a quarter mile, half mile walking radius, is that safe for kids to walk to school or bike to school? Because those would be, I think, really effective way. And then you also limit vehicle idling there, so it has a kind of an environmental benefit if someone's able to walk to school versus, waiting 45 minutes in the drive-through line, or pickup line, just idling their vehicle.
I'm glad you mentioned idling. We as a city, we don't have an idling policy, do we?
I don't know if we do. I know we have a clean fleet policy, and I don't know if anti-idling, I don't think we have anything that's enforceable from like a police perspective.
Because that also does impact the flow, right, of your traffic and transportation and permitting sort of active modes and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And one of the things too with the idling, I think part of the trouble with enforcing on that too is using the example of picking up a kid at school and there's, you're in the drive-through line, if it's 95 degrees out, people aren't reasonable, there could be potentially a health impact of sitting in the car for 30 minutes without the air blowing. So that's where it kind of gets a little difficult on stuff like that, but it's definitely something we can look into.
I heard you mention a number of different boards. Did you include arts and culture in that list?
We have not. They are involved on the West Side Art Trail.
Right.
So that's something I can look and see if I can get on the agenda for, or at least have the liaison do an announcement for that, just to make sure that we can have some representatives, whether we do it at the board meeting or if they come to the community input session.
Yeah. And I think additionally, I'm curious about potentially economic development even. I know that we've done more larger projects with that, but there's a growing like bicycle tourism and, you mentioned even the clubs going through. I know some cities have sort of, liaisons are working with groups to have, promote businesses or that sort of thing as stops for cyclists. And I could see that working particularly well in our new downtown area around the Station District, really accentuating the work that we're already doing there and helping expose additional new customers to our city and what we have to offer.
I think that's a great idea. I'm, thinking about like the new Star Center that is gonna be put over there. There's gonna be a lot of people that wanna walk to a restaurant. Can they make, do that safely? Those are things that we'll consider as we move forward with projects. And it's a lot of cooperation, public works, planning and zoning. So I think it's a lot of work to be done, but it's exciting.
Absolutely. Other thoughts, considerations? Thank you again for coming with this. And I think several of us look forward to this engagement opportunity, and hopefully we'll be able to bring our friends and neighbors.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And they have my contact information. If anyone has questions later, feel free to shoot me an email.
Great. Thank you again. All right. Up next, item A5, receive a report regarding development cases acted upon by City Council. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Brian Campbell, Senior Planning Technician here. I don't really have a formal presentation tonight. Just a second.
Oh, probably have to hit accept. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so like I said, I really don't have a formal presentation over this tonight. I did want to say a quick word on this for our new commissioners, explaining what you're looking at here. So several years back, the commission asked that we once a quarter, or every quarter, I should say, put together a list of projects, of development projects that y'all have seen that we also took to City Council, just to see, how the commission's action lined up with that of City Council and where the project currently stands. And so that's what this is. So I won't go through all of the cases that are listed here. If you have any questions over any particular ones, I will do my best to answer those. And just wanted to make a quick note on the one here about on Ford Road. I know City Council hasn't seen that one yet. They will consider it at their meeting this next Tuesday. I did want to include it just so it was a comprehensive list of everything we did since the last update. The next update will include this case again with the action that City Council took and where it stands. So if you have any questions on these projects, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, thank you.
Yeah, just one note, is just the date at the top, I think.
Yes, and I just noticed that. So that date range should be from October 16th, 2023 to February 6th, 2024.
Great, thank you for
Okay.
clarifying.
Thank you for that catch.
And the number one, well, it's interesting, we used to get these and there was always, they lined up, and this is an interesting one because there's a recommend denial, approved, recommend approval, denied. The first one, that's the Luna Road, so that's the Luna Road Apartments, and that was approved by City Council.
Right.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so and that was,
So we're batting
I think
333.
barely, but
it barely was, yeah, I would assume that was a pretty active discussion, was-
yeah, there was.
It was.
yeah, okay.
I did have one other question, and this is actually from the previous report, so you may
Okay.
not have an answer now, and you can come back to us. In the previous report, we had case number 23ZA03. This was the 2877 LBJ Freeway, and at the time we had seen that one, it had a motion to continue the public hearing until October 10th for City Council. So of course, we didn't ever receive, sort of similar to the last item on your list now, at the time this report was produced, no final outcome had been reached. So I was just looking for, the final outcome of that case.
We can get that.
I'll bring that back to you. Yeah.
They approved it, but they downzoned it instead of LR1, it was, or LR2, it was approved as LR1.
Okay,
That's right.
Perfect.
great. Thanks,
Thank you,
Sarah,
Sarah.
for your ironclad memory.
On my computer.
Well, and hopefully I give you enough information to quickly search it. Yes, so thank you for that. So I appreciate the update on that one. And that would be, yeah, all the questions I have.
The one
So-
I have
Yeah.
is, so city staff always has a recommendation for how we should move forward, whether deny or approve. Why is city staff's recommendation not listed?
Yeah, well, normally, again, when we bring an item to P and Z, it's not that our recommendation like dies or anything, but normally that's what we really are supposed to present to the city council is the P and Z's recommendation, not so much staff's recommendation. Our recommendation starts obviously when we take it to this board, but after that, once you guys make your decision on something, that is the focus that we take to the city council after that. So, but we can always add to this table.
I don't know if it would add value or not. I'm
Well,
just saying.
I tell you, I think it does add value.
Sure,
Having been there, because I recall on many occasions where someone would say, Marcos, can you tell me what the staff recommended and the process they went through to approve this or make their recommendation or denial? Because that's important,
No,
because you may not be surprised at the number of people who don't really go to the site, look around, drive up and down the
Yeah.
street, drive around, and get that mental picture that Marcos may have, or some staff member may have.
no, and I appreciate that, man. That's something that I think we like the idea of. It's kind of the process has always been, we bring our recommendation, we get P and Zs, and then ultimately when we take to city council, we normally adjust the ordinance to reflect this body's, ultimate recommendation.
Well, there's a lot that goes into y'all's recommendation, whether or not it aligns with the plan
I agree.
and all of that. And y'all are basing your decision based on the plan.
Absolutely.
And we can choose to go with it or not. And I think that maybe for the historical purpose of
Sure.
the history of what the decisions were made, it might add value to know why
Yeah.
city recommended or whatever they.
No, I like it. I like it.
Last meeting was a perfect example
Mhm.
of the situation we had, because one of the things I recall, just because of history, right across the street from that proposed project on Ford Road,
Mhm.
there's like a 12-inch pipe that comes out of the ground with a gate valve on top of it.
Oh, right.
And you can drive down the street and go, why would I build a multi-tenant office building across the street from that?
Yeah, understood.
And I mean, but see, unless you drove out there and saw that, and it's on the west side of Ford Road, it's right
it's
in
in
the
Dallas.
middle there, and it's about a 30 by 30 lot with a barbed wire fence. And,
Yeah.
and, I mean, that's, knowing that, that's what I focused on. What else would you build out there?
Understood. That makes sense.
I think that's a good suggestion, Alden. I'd like to see another call in here with your recommendation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we can
Yeah,
add
we
another
can add
column.
that.
We'll put our recommendation in here. And then, Brian, it might be important to also note, I think the dates that are actually in your packet, that does show October 16th to
The
February
correct
26th.
dates.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I
correct.
think what
this is-
happened, I think I accidentally copied the wrong version into the podium PC.
That's no
But
problem.
what's in your agenda packet is
It's still, yeah,
correct.
just for clarification.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. We can get this, we'll bring this again next quarter.
Yes, so I would imagine maybe June or July sometime would be the next one.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
That way we can look back and see how often we disagree with staff.
No, I think this is good. This is good. It kind of it paints it shows the clear picture, and that's really what we want to show. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thanks again, Brian.
Absolutely.
We
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
all.
All right, up next, item A6, discuss agenda items for future Planning and Zoning Commission consideration. Any items, commissioners or staff?
And I'll make mention real quick. I know, Amber, or Madam Chair, you had also sent us that, meeting request that's gonna be not meeting request, but it's a workshop that's happening, I wanna say on the 27th, I believe. And it's all day. I think it's 8:30 to 4:30. I think we're sending out an email to everybody, to see if anybody has any interest in attending
What
this.
month?
It is actually this month. It's during the day. It's on a Wednesday. I think it only cost $15, but we would cover that cost if anybody has any interest in attending that. We'll send all the details out. I think it's an excellent opportunity to get into the planning world. I believe it's given by the Urban Land Institute.
It is.
I don't have the specifics right in front of me, but again, we will shoot that email out to everybody tonight, so they have
Thanks.
it.
And
just
I'm
let us know
happy
if you
to
have any. Oh, go ahead.
Chat afterwards with anyone about the nature of the training. I have done the training myself, so I'm familiar. So I will not be there because it's only for new people who haven't done it before. So I'm not eligible to attend, but it is an excellent experience. So I'm happy to chat further about the details of what it entails, or if anyone has any questions.
Just need the dates, then we'll.
Yeah, we'll shoot that out to everybody. Absolutely. And it should be, again, off the top of my head, it should be March 27th. And I believe it was 8:30 to 4:30. But let me verify all of that when I send the email out.
Speaking of new people, I think we have a position or two open on this board.
Correct.
Do you know when that replacement may take place? Or are we waiting for a certain date, or why? I mean, if we have applicants, why are we waiting?
Yeah, we've inquired about that. I could bring back more information on that the next go around. My understanding is that after the election occurs, they do this once a year where they actually appoint board members, and I believe it happens in either June or July. So that's really the next time we'll actually get now, if we were falling under quorum, like with the number of folks that are actually sitting, I think that might be a different story. But right now, we still technically have enough folks to make quorum.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking of new people constantly. It's like we lose one and then we lose another one. And
Let me inquire with the city secretary also and get definitive on that. It's no problem.
I'm just thinking of training and bringing people on and having a list of people. I know there's a list of people out there that want to get on board.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely.
All right, any further items? Okay, with that, we will adjourn our study session. We will meet back at 7 in 2 minutes, or if you need longer to take a bio break, please let me know. We can certainly do so. And we will return for our regular session here in the study session chambers. So thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Farmers Branch Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It is presently 7:02 p.m. I want to thank the commissioners for their service. We'll begin with citizen comments. This agenda item provides an opportunity for citizens to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on any matter that is not posted on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the commission should complete a citizen comments registration form and submit it to the chair prior to the start of the meeting. There is a 3-minute time limit for each citizen to speak, with a reasonable limitation on speakers on any one topic or item, with a maximum of 15 total minutes on the same topic item. Anyone wishing to speak shall be courteous and cordial. The Planning and Zoning Commission is not permitted to take action on any subject raised by a speaker during citizen comments. However, the Planning and Zoning Commission may have the item placed on a future agenda for action, refer the item to the Director of Planning for further study or action, briefly state existing city policy, or provide a brief statement of factual information in response to the inquiry. This evening, I believe we have no citizen comments forms. Therefore, we will continue on to regular agenda item C1. Consider approval of the February 26, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission minutes and take appropriate action. Commissioners, I do believe we had an item for addition, so just a reminder.
So I guess I would move with the, I don't have to repeat it, right?
No.
So that we discussed in the study session, I move that we approve the minutes.
Second that.
Seconded? Who wants to claim that one? That was a.
Let Harold have
You know, that was
Okay.
that was a tie.
I saw Brian looking, and I want to make sure he got that. All right. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries unanimously. And with that, we are adjourned at 7:03 p.m. Thank you kindly.
Shortest meeting on record.
Tough meeting. Whoa.